As you can tell from the title, and of course, what I'm wearing on my arm right now, I tore my bicep. Here's what happened.
Oh, hi, Mark.
What's up, Freccero fam? Welcome back to my channel, where I like to experience everything that life has to offer. And on that note, sometimes I experience really cool things. Nightclubs, festivals, parties, unique events, and more. Other times, not so much. And this is one that's not so much. And I figure I wanted to kind of do a series, maybe on this channel, that might help people, where I'm kind of documenting my recovery from this. And this is going to be the first video of many where I'm just going to be documenting a lot of things I'm doing, because I got to be honest, jumping right into it, tearing a tendon was way worse than I expected. So I want to tell you the story of how I got to where I am now, and then things are kind of, or how things might look in the future. So first off, as most of you know, I work out a lot. I've been doing parkour and free running for years. When I was growing up, of course, I played things like soccer, but I think the first thing that really hooked me when it came to fitness was wrestling. I was doing wrestling for years, went then from wrestling to then breakdancing, from then breakdancing to capoeira, and all these different things, martial arts, tricking, and so much more. So I've been working out for a while. And what happened about a few weeks ago at the time of this video is I was working out at the gym doing a preacher curl. Now, a preacher curl, in case you didn't know, is not just a curl, like a typical bicep curl, but a curl where your arm is here. So it's on kind of like a slanted bench like this, in case you don't know, and you curl upwards like this. And the good thing, at least I thought, about preacher curls, which is true, I would say preacher curls are good, I want to say that as a side note, but I was doing a typical preacher curl, and the reason why is preacher curls have been shown in a lot of studies to be one of the best bicep curls or bicep exercises. Your biceps being isolated, so that means you can't really do like the whole momentum thing that a lot of people do. It's typically supposed to be good for it. And what happened was with my left arm, I was doing a preacher curl with both hands, like as I typically do. And if I can remember it as best I can, because it happened so fast, like in the blink of an eye, I went to curl up with my left arm, and I think the way I remember kind of turning a little bit, I don't know, went to pull up, heard a huge snap. I'm talking like a firecracker, like a super loud sound. It was so loud, the guy standing next to me who had headphones on took them off and went like that, looking around him. It was that loud. Huge snap. And at that point, I was like, what just happened? I put the weights down, and I was like, whoa, what just happened? Look myself in the mirror. And one of my arms, this one, huge pump, as typically is at the gym. When you're working out, your arms get pumped up and blah, blah, blah. Huge pump. This one literally looked like a shriveled balloon. Completely like shriveled balloon, almost like that episode from SpongeBob when he puts on the inflatable arms, but then they deflate. That's what this arm looked like, and the other one looked super big. And I remember being like, what the F just happened? Like, it was one of those moments where I was like, shoot, I know I just effed up. Like, I wasn't doing anything wrong. And here's the weird thing. It wasn't like I was hitting a PR when it comes to preacher curls. It wasn't like I was lifting a ton of weight. It was really just 25 pounds. And, you know, jumping ahead a little bit, when I asked a lot of doctors, they were like, hey, stuff happens. Sometimes it's just unlucky. You're just doing something, nothing too crazy. You're not pushing yourself, but it just happens. So, you know, stuff happens, right? That's the only way I can look at it. And I remember almost like feeling kind of dizzy. And I don't know if it's my body going into shock or me just being in shock or maybe something with the injury, but I remember being like, oh my God, this is like super weird. Went to the room, which I thought was going to be the office of the gym. Bunch of people there and a bunch of personal trainers. All of them were there, for better or for worse. And I was like, hey guys, the weirdest thing just happened to my bicep. And I show them my arms and they all freaked out. They're like, dude, you have to go to the hospital. Leave right now. Packed up my stuff, drove to the ER. And they told me that basically what happened is I snapped my bicep tendon. Gonna get a little graphic here, but, you know, wanted to be honest on this video. Snapped my bicep tendon, to be more specific for my, like, fitness, physiological people out there. I had a distal tendon bicep tear. And what happens is, if you think of it, think of like a rubber band being attached to like a block of cement. A block of cement being your arm, a rubber band being the elastic part that allows you to move like this, right? What happened is, when I was moving, the rubber band part that was attached to my forearm, right, attached to the bone, completely snapped off of it. Super painful. It was weird. I could barely move my arm. The pain was excruciating. Horrible. So I got that unfortunate diagnosis. Had to come back to see like an orthopedic surgeon. and a specialist and everything. They looked at him. They're basically like, yeah, here are your options basically when it comes to a distal tendon bicep tear. It was on my left hand. Luckily, it was not my right. And there's a couple different aspects to your bicep. Now, one of them is like this. I can still curl, I mean, not with this on, but I could still theoretically curl. When it comes to the distal tear, it's more for turning stuff. That's a whole different aspect to your arm. Like if you do this versus this, you're going to feel two different sensations. So with this one, the curling aspect, I'd still be fine on. But the twisting, not really. And they said, look, if you don't get surgery, you'll have maybe 10% of the strength left in that arm to be able to do twisting or certain movements. And in addition, it's aesthetically, just visually, going to look very weird. And they're like, look, if you were like 60 or 70, I'd say just don't get surgery. But at your young age, especially because you do parkour and free running and weightlifting, all this kind of stuff, you want to get surgery. Surgery is basically the best approach. And I might as well say as a side note, I'm not a doctor. I never pretend to be one in any of my videos. Don't take this as medical advice. I'm just saying what they told me, which obviously, remember, sometimes can be a game of telephone, but I was told surgery is the best option. So for about a week or two, I had to wait for surgery. And the arm actually surprisingly started to get a bit better. And I was like, okay, I'm getting more movement back, all right, but like haven't had surgery yet. Had surgery, which was pretty easy. I'm going to do a whole video about like what it's like to get put under, the whole surgery aspect. I'll do a dedicated video about that in the future. But got surgery. And after I got surgery, this is the way it works. With this cast now on my arm, is basically they said, all right, here's the way it's going to work. After surgery, you have to wear this for about 2 weeks. If this gets wet, it could be a huge infection issue because they did do stitching. And what they did during the surgery, again, not to sound graphic, but this is what happened. They basically drilled a hole into my bone, took the bicep tendon, bring it down, and attach it. Think of it almost like nailing a rubber band into something. That's the best way to think of it. Because what happens is, with the distal tendon, the bicep actually snaps upwards. It was kind of crazy. Like the whole thing snaps upwards because once it snaps off, because it was attached here, it went boop, all the way up. So they have to rip it back down and reattach it. And they said to me, because of all the stitching and everything, basically, one, if this gets wet, it could be a huge infection issue. But two, if you get sweaty, like say go for a walk, and right now at the time of this video here in LA, it's very hot. If you go for a walk and I get very sweaty or it gets wet, again, whether it's sweat or me spilling something on it, potential for infection. So for 2 weeks, I've not really been able to do too much. Like I haven't really posted that many videos on YouTube. I've kind of been a bit more sedentary, which has been kind of tough, I'll be honest. But one thing I've realized, and this is true for a lot of things in life, which is sometimes hard to realize in the moment, is that just because you're doing nothing doesn't mean you're not productive. Sometimes, in a very counterintuitive way, the most productive thing you can do is actually nothing, which is kind of what I've been doing, but I'm slowly getting better. You know, the arm doesn't hurt as much. I will say that, you know, the state I'm at now, it was some pain, but not too much, actually. I kind of recovered pretty fast. The biggest thing with this is the itchiness. Oh my God, the itchiness way worse. And I think I'd rather be in pain than it be too itchy, right? And a couple days from this video, as I'm filming it now, I will be getting this off. And the recovery, jumping back into it, 2 weeks with this on. After those 2 weeks, it's then going to be about, from the time of surgery, about a 6 to 8 month recovery until I can get back to where I was. The doctor said he's like, look, you're pretty much going to make a full recovery. You're going to be like pretty much 99% same strength, maybe even 100% same strength. So you'll get back to exactly where you were. But because it's a tendon, because it's almost like you have to strengthen that elasticity, if I'd word it like that, it's way worse than breaking a bone. Way worse than breaking a bone. If you think of it like breaking a bone, you cement it, boom, that's it. Because you want it to be rigid. But with a tendon, it has to be with like, you know, stiff to do stuff, but also still have that elasticity to be able to move and everything like that. So I think that's the biggest issue with tearing a tendon. I didn't expect a tendon tear to be like this long of a recovery, and as you can imagine, with something this long and intensive, and I'm going to even use the word careful when it comes to recovering. They also warn me, like, yeah, it's highly unlikely, but there is a chance for you to snap it again. If, like, say, I start going heavy on the weights again, it could snap. Remember, it takes significantly long for it to heal, almost 3/4 of a year. So I will be going into PT and all that kind of stuff, but that's the situation as it stands right now. That's what happened when I kind of tore my bicep tendon. Did not expect this to happen, and I am going to try to do like I said, like a series on this channel of like what I'm doing for recovery. Like I'm doing things like cryotherapy. I'm gonna talk about sauna use because I do have to be careful how I work out. I might just do all legs. Maybe I'm just gonna build like a huge dump truck, build like my legs, be super strong when it comes to lower body, almost if anything, work out more like a girl than a guy, so to speak. Like, so I am exploring different options. I also might explore doing things like gaming on this channel and doing a lot of live streams, which I never really did before in the past. But I was like, hey, maybe do a lot of live streams, maybe try something new, and trying to look at this as rather than like a negative thing, like, man, I can't work out, I can't even go outside. I'm also not drinking. Like, I'm sober now because, as you can imagine, alcohol is one of the worst things when it comes to recovery. So I'm not drinking. I'm very hindered heavily of what I can do, but I'm like, you know what? Let me try to think of things that I can do. Like I'm doing cryotherapy, like I said, the gaming stuff. I'm basically exploring different options, because I think in a situation like this, I've said this before, just to my friends and family, it's like, I think it's easy in a situation like this to kind of like, not spiral downwards, but be like, damn, I can't do anything, and kind of fall into that hole. But I'm like, okay, even if it's a bit, I've heard this phrase thrown around a lot, like toxically positive, even if it is a bit like toxic positivity or me trying too hard to be optimistic, maybe that's the way I should look at it. Maybe I should look at this as a blessing in disguise that maybe for some reason, if I'd even use this phrase, the universe, which I don't know if I fully believe in, but the universe or whatever, maybe it is a blessing in disguise. For some reason, I don't know yet, but I'll know eventually. We'll see what happens.